What up, what up? This is a very, very short notice stream, so we'll see how many people actually tune into this. But this is gonna be the best time to do it, because after this I'm gonna get grinding on finishing this next video, which I'm almost done with. So I just figured that while I'm at a good spot to take a break, I would start streaming and stuff. But yeah, I've wanted to react to the Subnautica video for a while now. It's one of the ones that are, I think, that have done the best and that I'm like very, very proud of. And while I would react to something more like Attack on Titan or something like that, I can't react to that one because I'll get copyright striked. So this is like the next best option. I'm also going to do a bunch of reactions to the older videos, so put up the YouTube post, and we'll see who shows up in here. All right, let me pull up the chat real fast too. What up, Hunter? If you guys don't know, Hunter is classy. He's my editor. He pulls up to all the streams and stuff. Alright, yeah, the post is out. I let the Discord know. So here in about 5-10 minutes, we should have enough people and we'll start this up. This is one of the videos too that's actually newer, so I can actually, like, I have the actual original file that I can just watch on here, so I don't have to watch it all compressed on YouTube, all that stuff. I can watch it as everyone else watches it, well, even slightly better because of the compression. My phone's at like 1%, dude. Every time I'm checking it to make sure everything's all good, it's like I'm gambling with it. I'm also gonna drop the members today, so you guys, anyone who tunes in, might get just free membership, just free. YouTube gives me 10 every month just to randomly give out. So I figured while I'm doing this, I may as well do that. I'm probably going to start it here in a couple minutes regardless of how many viewers we have in here. This is a very short notice stream, so I don't know how many people are going to actually tune into it, but this is just like the best time I have to do it. So, you know, usually I would give like a couple days or like a week in advance to let people know, but this one is a lot less, this one's a lot shorter notice. What up? What up? One Aim Studios. He's the guy who helped me work on the posters. So big shout out to him. You'll hear more about that at the end of the video. I think I have that at the end, so we'll talk about that. But yeah, this is gonna be this is like the start of a new type of like reacting thing I'm gonna do, where I'm gonna live stream reactions to the videos, and then I'm going to have my editor, Hunter, edit those down and then post that just as a public video for the entire channel, and then maybe even cut that up into smaller shorts, because I'm going to start doing a lot more shorts this year. And I already have like 20 of them written down, and I have probably like 10 of them, half those, recorded already. So it's just weekly I'm going to drop those because my editor is going to be the one editing those. So, you know, it's whenever he gets the time to do it, because he also has other stuff that he's doing. So, but yeah, that should be good. There's a big focus this year. I talk about it a little bit on the members video, but these streams are also a good time to talk about it. The big focus this year is going to be on a bunch of public stuff. So a bunch of stuff that I used to put behind membership, or, you know, maybe only briefly talk about on streams. I'm going to be a lot more, you know, public facing with that stuff. So I'm just going to make them into shorts or put them in these reaction videos and make them public, because I don't know why I didn't do that to begin with. Didn't really make sense, but all right. But here, in probably about 3 minutes, I'm gonna start up this video. It's an hour long. Usually these reactions take about twice as long as the actual video takes. So I'm thinking I'll be here for probably about 2 hours roughly. And that depends how many people join the stream. So if a ton of people join, it will take me a lot longer. But if not, I'll probably be able to get to it in about 2 hours. So that's good. But yeah, I'll probably just start this up. Let me know if there's any audio issues. But I'm going to just press play on this, because actually now is a good time to play it. The story of Subnautica begins with an ancient alien species known as the Architects. While the origins of the Architects are largely unknown, what they left behind presents a framework for what must have been a rich history, beginning in their homeworld So these shots actually are, I just dropped a hella membership gift. Sorry if that's like blowing up chat. These shots right here are actually the end of Below Zero, and what I had to do for almost every shot in this entire video is basically what I did is I would use the console commands to do stuff like freeze time, go into free cam, teleport around, and I just memorized like all of them. I just, over the course of just recording the hours upon hours of footage I needed for this video, I just memorized all of them, and what I would do is just pause time or very, very slowly slow down time, so I would, you know, get it to like 0.001 or 0.001 speed, and that would freeze time enough, because sometimes if you pause time, the lighting would look all weird. So what I basically did is I would freeze time, or I would make it go very slowly, and then I would get these free cam shots during very significant points in the game. And I would usually create save states right before, so if I messed up, I could redo it over and over. But this is at the very end of Below Zero, and what it basically I had to do is, yeah, just freeze time, go into free cam, get a bunch of these shots, because this is the only shot we get of the Architect homeworld or anything like that. So that's actually a huge problem I deal with a lot in the videos, is I write the script I don't give myself any sort of really limitations with the script. I just write the script as best as I can make it, and then future me, it's future me's problem to figure out what the hell I put there for footage, because I also have to figure that out. That's not like really up to my editor or anyone else. I direct the videos, so I have to pick specifically what video or what like video that I recorded, or what I want to put where. Sora Luna says, hello, I just finished watching the original video. It was a great video. It's a free weekend on Steam for Subnautica. Realize I'm not a fan of the game, but the lore is so good. Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I'm actually not a huge survival guy either. I don't really particularly love survival games, Subnautica is the big standout for me, just specifically because of the lore. Like, the lore and the story and all of that makes it a lot more interesting to me. The best thing Subnautica ever did, in my opinion, is have an ending. That is so important to a lot of games. Like, a lot of games will have lore, but they won't really, like, go any deeper. They won't have, like, an ending or anything like that. It'll just be like, ooh, isn't this world mysterious? Subnautica, I think, is really cool because it has an actual, like, plot, and it has all the lore to back it up. I think it's so much more interesting than what a lot of other games do. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of survival games either. Subnautica is the big standout to me. But yeah, era that would become known as pre-civilization, the architects were constrained to their purely biological bodies. However, as their species sought to expand, they evolved beyond the constraints of their corporeal form, able to transfer their consciousness into a wide variety of cybernetic and organic storage mediums. It's possible that this is the origin of their cultural hive mind, their proclivity to put the interest of the collective over the individual. However, it's just as likely that this is a deeply instinctive trait, carried over from their original culture. A concrete ending to work toward adds depth and goals 100%. 100%. Like, just, I think the point of a survival game, I could talk about this for hours because I fucking love it. The best thing Subnautica did was have an ending, because I think the best thing about a survival game is that you are struggling. So putting you and the main character, this is also a thing that the Below Zero did bad, but putting you as like a main character in the main character's shoes and having you both have that same goal of just survive and escape is the best thing you could ever do in a survival game, and actually have, that be possible. I hate when a survival game is just like, yeah, you're kind of screwed, and the whole thing you're going to do is learn to get good at the game and then eventually screw up and die, or eventually you get so difficult that you die. That's not interesting to me, really, whatsoever. Solar, what up? There's a timeline one of my friends is making. I would like to show you once it's finished. What's it about? But yeah, the Subnautica thing, I think that Below Zero kind of didn't really hit as hard as it could have, because your character's goals, Robin's goals, and you as a player, they're different. Like, in Subnautica, you feel like, oh shit, I'm stranded here. I have to beat all odds, and I have to escape the planet. Meanwhile, there's a bunch of shit going on. In Below Zero, it's you want to play the game and escape and survive and whatever. Robin wants to find her sister. You maybe don't care about her sister at all. And then that creates this disconnect between character and player that some games don't really get right. But I think Subnautica, the first one, really nailed it. And we'll see what Subnautica 2 does. But I hope Subnautica 2 leans more towards Subnautica 1. Because I think that there's just that disconnect can sometimes just kind of ruin it. While this incredible leap in evolution did allow them to remove themselves from the constraints of space-time, the architects insisted on remaining tethered to the physical universe. To do so without sacrificing the sophistication this advancement afforded them, the architects adopted cybernetic storage mediums known as vessels. Grown organically or constructed via fabrication facilities, these hollow vessels were created using a wide variety of trace biological sources. While it is unclear whether or not each vessel was the same, it is evident that the architects insisted on remaining with their original vessel, improving it with technology and modified organic material over their lifespan, only abandoning it when absolutely necessary. That's actually a comment I get a lot, is that if they're cybernetic mostly, how does a bacterium affect them. That's one thing that I actually had to find out, like, when I was researching, because I was like, that actually doesn't really make much sense. But that distinction where it's like it's not fully cybernetic, because they say cybernetic a lot in the games, but then I believe it's in Below Zero they add like, oh, but it's also biological. So they're basically cyborgs. They're partially biological, partially cybernetic. So it's not a video, it's a Google Doc. It covers Rosario plus vampire. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because that's like your own thing. So it's like just a Google Doc for fun. That's cool. Using these vessels, the architects expanded across multiple galaxies, along the way visiting an untold number of worlds. As was their nature, they sought to understand each world they came across, studying their flora, fauna, and, if applicable, culture and technology. One such world was known by its inhabitants as Earth, where around their 13th century, the architects collected a sword used in one of their primitive battles. It's during this era of exploration that the architects would stumble upon something that would change the fate of their species. While embarking on a routine network expansion in the outer worlds, a collection of architects discovered Kharaa, an incredibly infectious bacterium that would spell doom for their civilization. Following its initial discovery, the Kharaa bacterium was put under standard quarantine procedure. However, failure to properly secure the quarantine resulted in the uncontrollable spread of the bacterium. The subsequent pandemic ravaged the core worlds, claiming over 143 billion lives. Devastated by the loss, the architects quarantined the core worlds and began distributing samples of the bacterium to an untold number of research facilities in hopes that one of them would successfully develop a vaccine. One such facility was on an ecologically diverse ocean world that would become known as Planet 4546b. Upon arriving on Planet 454, oh no, shit, it restarted. Objects were destroyed by the quarantine and to diverse. Okay, these shots, by the way, the video does not do these justice whatsoever. These shots look beautiful in game. I don't know, like, it must be something in between OBS and the actual like game, but when I was getting these shots, I was like, dude, these look fucking beautiful. And then I just watch them in the video and I'm like, they're not really, like, it's just like, it's not that crazy. But I don't know, there's something about actually being in the game where like the god rays are hitting under the water and stuff like that, and it looks great. This is actually one of my favorite parts about making this video, is that the developers set me up in every way that they could. Like, I feel like they had content creators in mind from the very start, because all the console commands give creators and stuff tons of tools to do whatever they want with, like slow down time, free cam, setting up specific story events. So if I wanted to get multiple shots of the Aurora exploding, I didn't have to restart my game, wait 20 minutes or whatever, and then watch it explode. I could just do it with a console command. That stuff is so important, and I really wish more developers and studios actually had that in mind, because I think setting creators up to like make really cool, like giving creators the tools that they need to make really cool stuff, it's just free marketing. And it doesn't seem like it would be that crazy, because devs need the same tools. So I feel like just kind of give people your same dev tools and just let them go. I enjoy the trope of aliens being to Earth during our known timeline, observing and manipulating things. Yeah, no, me too. That's like, I don't know, it's just interesting. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. It's just, Earth is like no different to them. It's just another place. But yeah, it adds a lot to the to the just vibe of the game. Like, especially if you're just exploring and you're like, oh, what the hell? That's a sword. Oh shit, that means they've been to Earth. Oh, these guys, and it immediately gives you like scale for how long these guys have been alive. Ecological hotspots known as the Crater and Sector 0. The facilities within the crater primarily focused on projects related to Kharaa research, such as the Disease Research Facility, where Kharaa was primarily studied, and the Quarantine Enforcement Platform, which they had on standby in the event of an outbreak. Sector 0, meanwhile, held various other structures, such as the Fabricator Base, where architect vessels were constructed, and the Phase Gate Facility, which housed a large phase gate in the event they needed to return to their homeworld. In addition to these, sanctuary sites were placed within each zone, allowing the architects to abandon their vessels and lay dormant in the event of an outbreak. Lastly was the thermal power facility in the active lava zone of the crater, which powered most, if not all, architect facilities across the planet. With their infrastructure established, the architects within the Disease Research Facility began intentionally infecting. These shots, by the way, I actually had to, so these shots did not look good. They were super desaturated and the colors were very flat when I was in any like dark area, especially with like a lot of these like neon lights around. So what I ended up having to go do is download a shader, and I actually tested out quite a few of them. But I would download a shader and then I could just toggle it on and off. So for a lot of these shots, you may notice that it's a little more saturated, like the green and like everything's kind of darker. That's just because I had to equip a shader onto the game just because it looked a little bit better. I wanted originally to do that for the entire game. I wanted to like, you know, give the visuals a nice like just base layer improvement to where everyone's just like, whoa, it's kind of, I don't know. I wanted to make it to where when people watch the video, it didn't just look like Subnautica. It was like people's idea of Subnautica. Like I wanted to look super realistic. The colors be super saturated and very, I don't know. I just wanted it to look really good. The problem is that none of the shaders that are actually like on Nexus or anything like that look that good. They either look really, really like way too cinematic, or they look super, super ultra saturated, or they add like hella sharpness to the game. None of them looked good. It feels like all of them went in one crazy direction, whereas I just wanted like a good middle ground where it looked a little nicer, but not too crazy. But this shader was one that I just used in the dark areas because I did think it looked better in these areas when compared to the normal game. A wide variety of species with Kharaa in hopes of finding a natural cure for the bacterium. Of all the specimen they tested, one, a massive Leviathan-class creature known as the Sea Emperor, remained completely unaffected. Further testing proved that this was the result of a digestive enzyme she produced called Enzyme 42, which inhibited the effects of Kharaa in its hosts. Wasting no time, they constructed the primary containment facility, imprisoning the Sea Emperor and its eggs in its central chamber to study them further. After trapping the Sea Emperor, the architects ran a number of tests on the creature, primarily discovering that she was far too old to produce a stable version of Enzyme 42, the very thing they would need to develop an effective vaccine. This forced them to turn their attention to her unhatched offspring, which showed no signs of hatching in the foreseeable future. With no way of knowing the Sea Emperor's no doubt complex hatching rituals, an architect by the name of Al-An went against the network's directives by studying the eggs of the Sea Emperor's closest relative, the sea dragon Leviathan. Al-An hoped that by learning how to incubate the sea dragon's eggs, they would in turn learn how to expedite the hatching of the eggs of the Sea Emperor. While well-intentioned, Al-An underestimated the aggression of the sea dragons, resulting in the destruction of the Disease Research Facility. As the facility sank to the ocean floor, 314 of the 315 test subjects were destroyed by the quarantine protocol, leaving a single infected specimen to infect the rest of the planet. In an effort to contain the outbreak, the architects released the self-warping Quarantine Enforcer units, or warpers, into the ecosystem.
Specifically designed to be the perfect killers, the warpers were tasked with killing any infected wildlife.
Getting these shots was so fucking miserable, dude. Tracking these guys everywhere. Oh my god. They would teleport, make my shit annoying. I would slow stuff down. These guys have crazy erratic movement, so it didn't really matter. Getting these shots took me hours. I just got a handful of them, just whatever. Some of them were hella off center. Some of them just didn't look good. Some of them you could see stuff in the background because it's not very obvious. But what I try to do is hide stuff that isn't like mentioned quite yet. So I don't try to show the Degasi bases when I'm taking these shots because I don't know. I just feel like it adds that little layer of immersion where it's like the Degasi bases aren't here in this point in the timeline, so I try not to add them. But all of that made this incredibly, incredibly annoying to get. This shot specifically was one of the better ones, and I still was like, it's not completely centered. It's not like, I think you can see the camera movement a little weird because I was trying to like center it as I was going. It just wasn't perfect, but it's whatever. It is what it is. It's not a bad shot, and nobody notices but me. So I think that's a good thing.
To slow the spread of the infection. While the warpers patrolled the ocean, the architects activated the Quarantine Enforcement Platform, a massive structure/energy weapon designed to destroy any spacecraft that approached or departed the planet. Despite the quarantine procedures, Kharaa quickly decimated the planet's ecosystem. It's theorized the Leviathan specifically struggled immensely during this period, either killed by the virus itself.
I love this shot. Oh, it's still, I feel like this video doesn't do it like justice, but just
quickly decimated the planet's ecosystem. It's theorized the Leviathan specifically struggled immensely during this period, either killed by the virus itself or from the onset lack of a sustainable food source. The latter is presumed to be the fate of the greater Sea Emperor population, which left the remaining captive Sea Emperor, as well as its eggs, as the architect's last hopes of finding a cure. While Kharaa suffocated life on 4546b, the architects continue to search for a variety of ways to induce the Sea Emperor's egg hatching. Pressed for time and unaware of the egg's exact hatching rituals, they resorted to forcefully removing one of the unhatched Sea Emperors from its egg, resulting in its immediate death. Though the exact timing is unknown, it's around the same time period that a giant terrestrial...
Though the timing is unknown thing has become a meme in my friend group, because apparently I say it a lot during these videos. So every time I hear it, I cringe a little, because I'm like, though the timing is unknown is apparently my catchphrase. I didn't know that, but...
Terrestrial Kharaa-infected Leviathan fell through a thick layer of ice in Sector 0. Too weak to make it to the surface, the Leviathan was eventually preserved in ice, where it would remain untouched for another millennia. When it was eventually clear to the architects that they had not only failed to accomplish their goal, but that there was no evidence they could succeed, they cut their losses and retreated into their sanctuaries. One by one, the architects were stored within an unknown number of incredibly complex storage devices called containment cubes. Al-An specifically was stored within the advanced containment cube in Sanctuary 0, where he would remain for the next 1,000 years. With the architects dormant inside their sanctuaries, the only hope for 4546b became the Sea Emperor. Though Enzyme 42...
This shot also took fucking forever to get. To line it up perfectly, I had to do it like 5 times.
Wasn't potent or stable enough to cure its subjects or develop a vaccine, it still remained capable of nullifying the deadly effects of Kharaa. This, combined with the vast network of pipes that sustained the Sea Emperor with fresh food and water, created a cycle in which the small, shallow, water-dwelling fish called peepers would be transported to the Sea Emperor's habitat. Inside, they would be enriched with Enzyme 42 and released back onto the surface, where they would be consumed.
Oh, by the way, Subnautica, one of the best games. This is why, well, there's 2 things I want to say. Subnautica is one of the best games with environmental storytelling because it really does. Like, the fact that it shows that cycle of peepers getting sucked in and then releasing, and they have the enzyme. Super cool. Like, that's incredibly cool. But then there's other stuff like the life pods all being different. Like, all the life pods having different ways that they all got killed, but then they're actually like all have the same exact model. I think is like dumb. It's like either go all the way and be super environmental in your storytelling, or I don't know, it just feels weird that they kind of in some ways did it but in other ways didn't. The use of the Sea Emperor and her long life is tragic. Yeah, actually though, it's like getting those shots was also kind of just like, oh damn, like in thousands of years, and so just like it's like you being cramped in like a small room for the Sea Emperor.
Thus, the crater remained the last bastion of life on 4546b, the rest of the planet either barren or decimated by the effects of Kharaa. Over the next several centuries, life on 4546b remained on the brink of extinction. Likewise, the Sea Emperor barely hung on to her own life, only managing to vastly surpass the estimated lifespan of her species due to her consistent food source, lack of predators, and will to save her children. Suffering a fate similar to that of 4546b, the architects were driven to what is presumed to be extinction at the hands of Kharaa, or at a minimum, seclusion within their numerous sanctuaries. Surely, the architects assumed that without their guiding hand, life in the universe was fated to fall prey to Kharaa like they did themselves.
Okay, I know what's coming up because I made it, but this is one of my absolute favorite title cards I've ever done. I just think, like, I had no idea what to do here. We tried a handful of things, but then when I had this idea and I gave it to my editor, he perfected it and added all like the effects and made sure it was all good. And I just think it works so well. The music and the visuals and like the transition effects, all of it are just perfect. I love it.
Little did they know, upon that primitive world known as Earth, humanity was gearing up for an expansion, unknowingly setting them on a path that destined them to finish what the architects started.
Oh, I don't know if it's cool to anyone else, but I love it.
Just under a millennia after the architects imprisoned the Sea Emperor, humanity sought to expand their influence beyond Earth. This transition, slow at first, was exponentially accelerated when humanity developed phase gate technology, allowing them to travel faster than the speed of light. Though the specifics are unknown, it's probable that the subsequent expansion to different star systems gave rise to a new type of governing body, one that thrived in the high-risk yet near infinitely profitable environment of space, a hybrid between the governments that ruled Earth and the corporations that dominated beyond. They were dubbed transgovs. Despite the endless amount of space in, well, space, practically all of the transgovs found themselves locked in numerous endless.
I tried, by the way, finding futuristic space stuff, whatever. I use a website called Envato for all of like my stock footage and a bunch of the effects and stuff. It's it's a pretty good site. A lot of like professionals also use it, but some of them are mad corny. Like, I don't know. They just don't have, like, it has a lot of good stuff, but it has just as much just 3D art slop, and now it's riddled with AI and it's horrible. But I haven't had to use a ton of stock footage lately. This is a video I used quite a bit, but I'm glad that I mostly could just use stuff from the game. What do you guys think of a remaster of old games like Infamous 1, 2, or Prototype? I really hope they do it. I think I'm going to make a short about this, about my opinion on Infamous being remastered and stuff like that. But I think that the fact that there are games stuck on old consoles is absurd. It should not be a thing. There should be no video game that is stuck on a console. You should be able to play any game other than like... No, actually, you should be able to play any game on really any console, if if I was being truthful, but at least just if it's a PlayStation game on a PlayStation console, on a modern one. It's absurd that we don't at least have access to it in a reliable way. But it would be a lot better if it remastered. Sorry, I gotta take a drink. It is very cool. Thank you. I also really like the title card with the penguin guy walking across the screen. Oh, I'll talk about that one. That one took me forever. That is actually the shot that took me the longest. And I tried to recreate it because I was like, I think I could do a little better. I probably took an entire day just to do that one. Because that, you don't see it, but that's like a 4-hour long recording. It's forever. It took me so long that I would just find a penguin and just hope he walked across the screen. And they never would, because all of their like AI is super just weird. They'll just go in random ass directions. And that one took me so long to get. So I'm glad that's actually your favorite, because that one took me by far the longest. All the title cards in this, I tried to be super creative. I wanted to just do different stuff. So at first I reached out to people who did like 3D modeling in Blender and stuff. And I asked them because I had really cool ideas. If I am given infinite budget, I could do super cool. I have like always these like crazy ideas for title cards and stuff. But obviously, I don't have that. So I would reach out to people and be like, hey, if you were to make something like this, how much, what would you quote me? Then they're like, oh yeah, like $400. I'm like, God damn, for 10, like it's cool. Like if that's how much it costs, that's how much it costs. But I cannot afford that. So yeah, I'm hoping that I get to the day where I can just do that. I have like a 3D modeler on a retainer or something, and I can just make really, really cool title cards. But limitations also, are helpful. So I think that's okay. If Infamous 1 gets remade, they need to treat rockets and grenades the same way Second Son does. Yeah, 100%. I think the worst, like the mechanics wise, I think that they do, but also the button mapping. The Second Son, I'll Die on This Hill, has way better button mapping than Infamous 1 and 2. In Infamous 1 and 2, the right stick is, of course, how you look around, like most games. And then the rockets is triangle and the grenades are square, which means you have to take your thumb off of the joystick looking around while aiming, and you have to press one of those, which means a lot of the time you're shooting a rocket, you're launching a grenade or whatever, where your enemy was or where you're predicting them to go. Whereas Second Son, it's like R1 or R2, so you can look and press it at the same time, so you can actively track them. Any argument that Infamous 1's button mapping is better, I just don't understand, because of that one simple fact. But
wars. While this transpired, a young defense manufacturer named Alterra found incredible success in supplying arms to all sides of the many conflicts. In doing so, they collected a vast colonist workforce, allowing them to transition from a simple manufacturer to one of the most dominant transgovs. Positioned as one of the most influential powers, Alterra sought to end the wars before they themselves were pulled into them by threatening to cease trade altogether. Soon enough, the threat proved effective, as this act would become known.
I don't know, a lot of these shots with stars and stuff, I don't know if it's just the compression and the rendering making it look like ass, but these are all supposed to be 4K. I wonder if they're not cropped correctly. I wonder if that's it, but I don't know. These look like shit.
Is a major turning point in the conflicts, bringing about the end of the hostilities and the signing of the Charter, a document that required all 37 complying transgovs to fund an independent military force that was to be overseen by the Trans-System Federation, an overarching governing body that maintained order between the transgovs. This, Alterra hoped, would keep their fellow transgovs in line, allowing them to compete as corporations, not military powers. A no doubt deliberate move by Alterra, as by ending the war at the time they did, they had not only made themselves out to be the heroes, but also shifted the power balance within Federation space, giving themselves a distinct advantage moving forward. When the wars of the expansion ended,
I'm actually going to make a short on this. So I'm probably going to steal this comment for a short. Do you think Subnautica 2's story will be better or worse than the previous games? I think there's no shot it's better. I think Subnautica 1 will most likely go down as just the best, most well-written story, contribute most to the lore, all of that. Subnautica 2, because it's multiplayer, in all likelihood will not be that great. I'm pretty sure the devs themselves had said that they've said there's kind of a story and they add a little bit more to the lore, but it's not on 4546B, and it's not. I don't even think it will have a main story. I think at best it will add to the lore and in a very minor way, and it'll probably just focus completely on gameplay. I think that they probably just hit it right and just got kind of lucky just with how the story and how everything worked out, and they don't want to repeat that over and over, so they're experimenting with different things. And I don't know, I just think it's kind of hard to do a survival game with a story that's not the exact same thing as Subnautica, where you're a guy who happened to get stranded and you want to escape and you have to figure out a way to escape. It's a survival game, that's kind of the point. So either you're going to be a group of people who are just also stranded on this other random planet, and they're in that way it kind of adds to the lore, whatever, or maybe they'll add something to it where you're deliberately going to this planet. I don't know, but I think there's no shot it's better, and very likely will just be kind of mid.
The smaller colony systems on the outskirts of Federation space, such as the Mongolian independent states, were left abandoned, perceived as useless in the eyes of the larger transgovs. Thus, they declared themselves independent, forming their own autonomous transgovs. Left to their own accord, the Mongolian independent states, as well as similar colony transgovs, sought to use their small size and positioning at the edge of chartered space to their advantage by implementing their own infrastructure and mining resources before anyone else could reach it.
Oh, I love this shot too. That's a little disappointing from a story perspective. I would have loved to see basically the end of Below Zero. Me too. It's going to be so annoying that we're probably not going to get anything. We might, at most, get a few audio logs about remember that one person who went there? Or it'll probably, most likely, be, wow, this person went to 4546B and they disappeared. And it'll just be talking about Robin. But at most, it'll be, this person went to the architect world and they came back and we now know this stuff. I don't know. Maybe Robin's learned a bunch of stuff from the architects. Or maybe the architects are actually alive in some way, or they're rebuilding civilization or something. But I don't think there's going to be any crazy stuff. I wonder if the legal issues the devs had to go through caused them to alter the type of game and story they could tell. Maybe, possibly. But I also think that, I don't know, I heard that a lot of those legal things got solved, and basically a lot of the responsibility and stuff got passed back to the devs. I heard that they had, I don't know, I'm not too caught up on it. I probably should be, because one of my most popular videos is Subnautica. But I thought that the judge sided with the devs or something. I don't know really what that means. I haven't really seen anything about it, but that's what I heard. And by that, I mean I watched one TikTok about it a month ago.
Took place, a man named Elliot, the head of the research team aboard a sole transgov spacecraft known as Mercury II, performed scans of a then unexplored Category 3 ocean planet simply named 4546b, discovering that it contained complex infrastructure indicative of an alien civilization. Assuming themselves to be on the verge of a xenological breakthrough, Elliot convinced Captain Diana that it would be worth their time to traverse to the planet's surface. Directly after breaking the planet's atmosphere, the quarantine enforcement platform targeted the Mercury II, refracting the energy pulse across the planet's atmosphere to keep it from breaking quarantine. Detecting the beam using the Mercury enforcement platform.
Look at that. Look at the edge of the map. No, I did not realize you could see that. That's unfortunate. Also, the game looks like shit. The water looks so bad when you go up into the air. That's one thing Subnautica 2 has to do better, is now that they're on Unreal, dude, the water needs to look better. When you're in the water, the game's phenomenal. It looks great. The second you step out of the water, the game looks like it's all made out of clay. And from like a distance, that's whatever. But when you're like up close, you're getting close-up shots, you're getting shots like this where like the water, it does not look great. If you're right on the like horizon, if you're parallel with the horizon, it doesn't look bad. Yeah, literally unwatchable, bro. I do think that they will do the open world really well, personally, probably, but I think that it's going to be one of those cases where maybe gameplay will be really improved and maybe they'll hone in on that, but the thing that gets left behind is the story. I think that's probably the most likely scenario, is that they're really going to focus on making the gameplay good, because that was a lot of people's problem with Below Zero, but Below Zero was just a mess completely throughout the entire thing. So I think this time maybe they're just like Subnautica 1. Let's focus on the story, or let's focus on the gameplay. Let's get it really, really honed in, make it really just a good game that's fun to play with your friends. And then maybe the story will come second, where along the way, maybe they're just thinking about what the story will be. Because that, I don't know, that is kind of a big part of early access. But that's also, I think, the problem with these games is they just go into early access and they stay in early access for so long. I do really wish, I don't like the trend of survival games going into early access, staying there, nothing gets fixed, the game kind of sucks at launch. I wish that they would just launch the game, but I do get that they need some sort of feedback. But I don't know.
Platform targeted the Mercury II, refracting the energy pulse across the planet's atmosphere to keep it from breaking quarantine. Detecting the beam using the Mercury II's anti-pirate sensors, Captain Diana immediately fired emergency flares, purged the water from the nuclear core, and performed an evasive maneuver. The flares and water confused the platform's targeting system, while the maneuver saved them from being struck, allowing them to safely navigate to the Arctic spires of Sector 0. On the surface, Elliot, along...
Okay. I'm gonna explain this, because I want to know if I sound crazy when I say this. Shots like this look really good. And I know I keep obsessing about the shots, but I direct and I take a long time to get these videos to where I think they look good. This shot looks good to me because there's a lot of weight on this side. Oh, whoops. There's a lot of weight on this side with the planet and this big like iceberg thing over here. And then just completely across from the screen, there's weight. So there's like, it's pulling you in these two directions, where there's a bunch of weight on this side with the land and with this architect technology, and there's weight on this side. And then there's like some empty space here, and then just kind of like snow generally here. Does that make any sense to anyone? That to me, just, this like looks nice. Like this could be, I mean, this could be like a wallpaper, and it would just be like, oh, that's a solid, like whatever, wallpaper. I just think that's kind of what I go for, just subconsciously when I'm recording, but I don't know if anyone else picks up on it.
Alongside 6 researchers began their search for alien ruins. Meanwhile, Sanctuary 0, running low on power, prompted Al-An, and/or the facility itself, to emit a distress signal to obtain the assistance of any nearby intelligent life forms. Hundreds of meters from the Mercury II, Elliot's research team picked up on this very distress signal, which they discovered originated a few hundred meters below the ocean's surface. Eager to explore, they dove into the cold, dark water, where half the team was killed by what is presumed to be a squid shark.
Apparently that actually might be a warper, not a squid shark. So I might have either got that wrong, or it's just like one of those theories people come up with where they think it's just completely true in canon, but it's not completely clear, which once we get to the life pods, we'll talk more about that. A lot of people just assume, and they like in like the lore, it's not completely clear, but people just make assumptions. But As a 7 Days to Die player for many years, by the time they left Alpha and launched 1.0, it wasn't interesting, and I wasn't interested in playing anymore. So I understand the frustration of early access. Yeah, that's one reason why I'm not a huge survival guy. Is that early access thing? I love a game that I love just when a game launches and it's done and I just get to play it, and there's not like a promise of, don't worry guys, it'll be good in the future, just give us some feedback. But I would much prefer them saying, this is a really solid game, we're gonna give it to you. If there's anything that you want changed, let us know. But we've already made it into a state that we believe is good enough. But yeah, and then a lot of games change either so drastically between Alpha and 1.0 that it's not really the same game anymore, or along the way it just gets like lost, or there's a bunch of problems with the game. And that's just, 7 Days to Die. I remember playing that on the PS4 a long time ago, and that's a game that I could totally see that. Just a lot of the survival games deal with that same thing.
A few days later, the crew began showing symptoms of the Kharaa bacterium sickness. Though unaware of what exactly it was, Captain Diana knew that it was a sign they had made a terrible mistake. Made worse, the ice worms began attacking the ship, forcing Captain Diana to perform a risky emergency takeoff maneuver. Leaving the infected crew members behind, the Mercury II began its rapid ascent into space, where it was once more targeted by the quarantine enforcement platform. After impact, the ship was broke into several pieces, the majority of which landed in Sector 0, the rest either destroyed on a re-entry or upon initial impact. During their descent, a mechanic named Yasmin was pulled into safety by an engineer named Stefanos. Hours later, Yasmin awoke, discovering that Stefanos was still unconscious. Despite her aching body and broken bones, Yasmin was determined to return the favor by saving Stefanos' life. To this day, the fate of Yasmin and Stefanos are unknown, though even if they did manage to survive the sparse yet deadly ecosystem of Sector 0, they likely succumbed to Kharaa after just 2 short weeks.
Foreshadowing.
Shortly before, or around the same time of the Mercury II's crash, a teenage girl named Marguerite Maida left her home of the Mongolian states to begin working as a mercenary. After jumping from one mercenary job to another, she did multiple tours with the Mongolian Defense Force, and later, the Trans-System Federation. During her time with the Trans-System Federation, Marguerite rose up the ranks, eventually heading an intel and a reconnaissance mission. While the specific details of the mission are unclear, what she found prompted her to eliminate the entire local security apparatus over the course of 3 days. While none of the locals were willing to share specifics, they repeatedly thanked God's hand for saving them. Directly afterward, Marguerite was dishonorably discharged, instilling within her a deep-seated hatred and distrust for any and all transgovs. Forced to return to her work as a mercenary, she was eventually hired by Paul Torgal, the head of the Torgal Corporation. Being a legendary mercenary and decorated soldier, Marguerite was hired to escort Paul's ship, the Degasi, to the edge of Federation space, where Bart Torgal, Paul's 19-year-old son, was to lead a mining operation. Little did she know that during their travels, Paul would insist they check out a beautiful ocean planet called 4546b.
Bad choice, bro. Like this title card, I think it's a little boring. I don't know. I had some cool
After
ideas.
Crash landing in the crater, the 3 survivors of the Degasi, Marguerite, Paul, and Bart, spent the first few days adrift in.
Also, fun fact, this chapter was actually the last chapter I recorded. So I don't record these in complete order. Sometimes the final chapter or just random ones will be completely done, written out in its entirety first. Sometimes there's just like a sentence or two that I'm just not happy with that'll keep me from recording a chapter. So, sometimes I don't finish the entire complete script before I start recording stuff. Sometimes certain chapters are done before others. So, some sometimes maybe people don't think about. But yeah, this I know for a fact was the last one I recorded, because there was like a sentence or two that I was just like, I don't like it. I don't like how it sounds, and so it just kept me from recording it.
In an escape pod before finally washing ashore on a remote floating island. With limited supplies and the impossibility of rescue obvious.
Look how fucking disgusting this game looks on land. Ugh, I just don't like it. It looks gross. The colors look off. The lighting looks so bad.
They did their best to make the island home. By salvaging what they could from the Degasi's wreckage, the crew fabricated shelters, planted what little food they could find, and began studying the planet's alien ecosystem. Over the coming weeks, Marguerite, observing the harsh land and violent storms that hammered the island, concluded that they needed to move to the ocean if they were to survive long term. Soon enough, she discovered the Jelly Shroom Cave, a promising and relatively safe location not too far from the island. 6 weeks after the crash, a violent storm swept across the island, wiping out what little progress they had made since their arrival. Their grow beds flooded and shelters half buried, Marguerite insisted on relocating to the cave. Paul resisted at first, arguing that land was the only place they could maintain long-term comfort. But as resources got scarce and their comfort was slowly stripped from them, the move soon became the obvious choice. While their habitat within the Jelly Shroom Cave was cramped and stifling, the mineral-rich environment and abundance of fish made it ideal for survival. With nothing else to do, Bart, driven by his curiosity, spent most of his time studying the cave's delicate ecosystem, uncovering practical solutions to their endless problems. Marguerite, ever the pragmatist, took interest in Bart's unique skill set. Unlike his father, Bart was forward-thinking, resourceful, and open-minded, all things that she could respect. As such, the two quickly found themselves working in symbiosis. Marguerite utilizing Bart's keen observations to make her own work more efficient, which in turn gave Bart even more of a reason to continue his studies. Over the next few weeks, as their base within the cave began to deteriorate, Bart picked up signs of alien ruins within the deep Grand Reef. Marguerite, hoping to find answers as to why they were shot down, once more proposed they relocate their base. Similar to before, Paul refused to leave. Unwilling to tolerate Paul's lack of foresight, Marguerite planned to make the move regardless after
One of the things I just don't understand about the Degasi lore, and like some people make up answers because they are like, oh, well, there must be an answer, so they just start making stuff up. Why the fuck did they not just go to the safe shallows? Like, the safe shallows are the part where there's literally like no predators, and when you play the game, there's an abundance of food. They could have just done it. And then Bart even does it later, where he just goes to the safe shallows and just chills. And it's like, they're like, oh, we need to go into the most evil, dangerous part of the planet because there's food there. It's like, what the fuck, bro? You're going to the evil snake cave instead of the safe shallows, Sunshine Rainbow Land? Well, it just doesn't fully make sense. And people will just make up kind of answers just to like defend the game on its behalf. Like, I wish the game just gave us a straight answer, or I don't know, something like that. But I mean, you could argue it's the storms because it's like shallow. The storms affected the planet, but I don't know. I just feel like it's Bart did it a little bit later. But yeah, that just has never really made sense to me.
Fabricating a sea moth, forcing
and I kind of just ignore it in the video because of that.
The Grand Reef base was their most ambitious one yet. With a functional aquarium for Bart's studies and a reinforced exterior, surely they assumed that this would be where they began to thrive. And for a time, it was. However, their situation took a grim turn when Bart realized they were all sick. Not with some ordinary illness, but something much worse. A bacterium that had infected the entire planet. To eliminate the problem before it could do the same to them, Marguerite began supplying Bart with various creatures, hoping they could uncover how the fauna of the crater resisted the bacterium. Lacking a clear answer, Marguerite, growing impatient, went looking for a fight. eventually returning home with the body of a wounded Reaper Leviathan. After showcasing it to her fellow castaways, Marguerite was confronted by Paul, who called her behavior reckless. The argument that followed prompted Bart to exit the habitat, startling a nearby Reaper Leviathan, which ruptured the sea base.
That is also something I may have gotten wrong or may have misinterpreted a little bit. I get some comments where they just explain like, well, it's kind of not really correct. From the audio log, it's very hard to tell what's going on, but apparently from comments, either I am right where that's what happened, or it's more accurately the Reaper Leviathan she brought woke up again and attacked them, or she took a baby one, so its mom came after them. I don't know how the hell people can tell, unless they're like the devs specifically answer that. I have no idea how people can tell, because from the audio log it's incredibly vague. But yeah, apparently that might not be 100% accurate. Also, there are rock shelters on the island they could build behind that would have helped during the storms instead of going into the water. Yeah, it's like, there are caves and stuff. Why not just chill there? It just doesn't really make sense. Like, yeah, there's literally caves in the game. Just chill out in a cave. And you have like fabrication materials and stuff like that. So just like, I don't know. It just doesn't fully make sense. Like, when there is a storm, maybe just build a small shelter right under the island. Like, just like straight under, like walk offshore, swim under a little bit. And then when there's a storm, you just dip under there. And I guess maybe that doesn't work because their food would still get fucked up. But it just doesn't make sense. Just go to the safe shallows. It's chill. It's whatever. Don't go to evil snake or evil crab cave.
In the ensuing chaos, Bart managed to escape to the safe shallows, while Paul was faced by the Reaper. Marguerite, unwilling to let Paul die despite their numerous disagreements, drove a jagged metal shard into the creature's neck before she was pulled into the abyss. Left stranded in the Grand Reef, Paul followed a light source that emanated from the ocean depths, where he was likely killed by a crab squid. 500 meters below sea level, Marguerite clung to the thrashing Reaper, one hand wrapped around the shard, the other on its scales. The Leviathan continued to spiral blindly, dragging both of them toward the crater's edge. With only 4 minutes of air left, Marguerite used everything she could to finally kill the Reaper. When she finally broke the surface, she found herself stranded in the void. No land in sight, she knew exhaustion would claim her long before she found safety. Hours later, Marguerite's patience was rewarded when the body of the Reaper finally ascended to the surface. Using her knife, she climbed atop the Leviathan and assessed her situation. Though desperate, she found the Reaper had all she needed. Its thick flesh provided warmth during the cold nights. Its fat, once burned, could keep a fire alive long enough to boil water and even cook meat. However, as days bled into weeks, Marguerite was eventually forced to face her demise as the Reaper's flesh began to first rot, then freeze, as she drifted into Sector 0.
This, by the way, oh my god, I had no idea what to put for this footage. I had absolutely none. And then I was getting like the last little bit of footage I needed for Below Zero, where because the last footage I got for most of the last clips I got were of the actual like gameplay stuff. What I did is I went through and I got all like the free cam landscape cinematics where I would just go into free cam and get like underwater shots of specific areas, and I basically just make a huge list of, I need this base, I need the interior, I need the exterior, I need this biome, I need whatever, and I would just get a list and I would just get a handful of shots for each. I had no idea. I really wanted to show the planet of 4546b, but I was like, but there's no way to show it, until I realized that Below Zero starts with you outside of the planet and Robin gets shot into the planet. So what I did is I started the game and then I immediately entered console commands, slowed down time. When it got to a certain spot, I paused time, free cam, and I got clips of this and the entire planet as a whole. And that type of stuff is, I think, just super, super. I love when games do it. I love when they give me the tools to do that. And so yeah, that's just one of those things that I'm like, that's happy coincidence that I was like, I don't know what to put here. This was probably filled with a bunch of other filler shots. Then I got those final clips, and so we replaced them. What up? What up? Yummy Peace Discord. Hello.
Oh. Soon enough, the creature began losing buoyancy, turning what had once been her only life raft into a tomb that anchored her to her inevitable death. Yet, just as her situation seemed too dire to survive, she saw in the distance a flock of penguins. Knowing where there were birds, there was also land. She kept watch for distant, unmoving clouds. Hours later, she laid eyes on what could only be landmass. Using her last reserves of strength, she swam for the land. When she finally collapsed onto the frozen shore, she promised herself that one day she would return for the Reaper's skull. Back in the crater, Bart managed to construct a habitat in the safe shallows where he continued his research.
See what I mean?
While he did so, the Sea Emperor attempted to reach out to Bart telepathically. Unable to trust his own mind, Bart dismissed these as visions, hallucinations brought on by the infection. When it was eventually clear that he would not find a solution to his problem, Bart returned to the floating island. It was there, at the apex of the island, that Bart came to peace with his end. After months on this planet, he finally understood that it was not their destiny to conquer the world or cure the bacterium. No, their fate was to become a part of the planet, a footnote in a much larger story than their own. His only hope, that those who eventually uncovered their story would learn from their mistakes, so they could finally accomplish what he could not.
That's actually the sentence. It's the ending. I forgot what it was, but the ending of that chapter was the reason why I delayed it for so long, and it's why it was the last one to be recorded, because I wanted it to be kind of poetic, and like I wanted there to be. I try to describe the character arcs and like what they're learning, and like I kind of slide lessons or whatever into the video, into the script. So that's one of them that I think it took a while for me to really nail down, and that's why it was the last thing to be recorded. But yeah, shots like this, by the way, this is what I mean by this is literally the beginning of Below Zero, and all I did was freeze time and then fly around in free cam, and they show the entire planet. So like you can't like go around the planet obviously, but like it's like a dome and you get to just kind of go around. So I got a bunch of shots.
Just under a decade after the crash of the Degasi, Alterra, seeking to expand their influence, constructed a cutting-edge, long-range capital-class ship called the Aurora. Consisting of a command crew of 23, support crew of 40, 85 engineers, and 9 lucky passengers, the Aurora was designed for both utility and luxury throughout its multi-year journey across uncharted space. After its construction, the Aurora traveled from a space dock on the edge of Alterra space, planning to make hundreds of consecutive phase gate jumps through 9 different Transgov authorities, arriving on the far side of the Aridany arm in just 3 short months.
Aridany!
From there, the command crew planned to pilot the ship beyond the final phase gate, arriving in the next star system approximately 18 months later. There, the elite team of engineers would have begun a 6-month-long, multi-trillion credit construction project to build the new phase gate. If successful, Alterra would have outmaneuvered a cabal of Mongols.
Okay, so this is what I mean. Look at this. This is what I mean by some of the Envato stock footage being too much. What is this, bro? Chill out with the lens flares. Look at this.
Multi-trillion credit construction project
like,
to build the new.
I get it's a reflective surface, but
phase gate.
Down.
If successful, Alterra would have outmaneuvered a cabal of Mongolian corporations operating a range of outposts and mines in the region. In addition to their goal of constructing a new phase gate, the Aurora had a secret auxiliary mission to perform a gravitational slingshot maneuver around planet 4546b to scan for survivors of the Degasi. Though rescue was incredibly unlikely, Alterra agreed to help the Mongolian states, as in the territory of deep space, the Aurora would need to rely on the Mongolian states for fuel and other crude resources. To this end, the Aurora was equipped with a cutting-edge scanner suite, as well as an unusual collection of aquatic and all-terrain vehicles, such as the Seamoth submersible, Cyclops submarine, prawn suit, and other various accessories that might help the crew of the Degasi if they managed to pick up a signal. However, as is well known, this would never come to fruition. Just months into their
I don't know if people fully understand that about these videos, but yeah, that's like kind of one thing that I try to do, where I try to keep the script in universe. So I'm like, as is well known, is like, it's like I'm like a historian inside of the universe. I never say like, oh, and welcome to and this is where we get to the first Subnautica game. Like, I never do anything like that, even though it might be more clear to people who just want like a straight up timeline. I'm trying to really emphasize the lore and the story of the games. So I kind of treat it as if, yeah, I'm like a historian exploring this world, and I'm just kind of grabbing a bunch of notes, and I'm like now telling this around like a campfire, and that's kind of the vibe I'm going for. So yeah, I don't know if people know it, but that's like a weird like obsession I have when I'm writing the script. Is like I never allow myself to be like meta, really, in a way. Sometimes I do for title cards, where I'll just have like the game's title as a title card. But that's usually just because that's usually because it's like the game title card just looks better, and it's like the only way that I am kind of meta with it.
Journey, when it was finally time to perform the slingshot maneuver around 4546b, the Aurora crossed the quarantine set by the architects, prompting the quarantine enforcement platform to ground the ship. Just after the platform fired the pulse, the Aurora's advanced scanners detected a high-velocity energy pulse on trajectory to hit the ship. As the beam made its way toward the Aurora, Captain Hollister, following emergency procedure, sent the planet's environmental data to Alterra HQ, hoping they would provide a rescue solution. 6 minutes later, the energy pulse impacted the starboard side of the ship, compromising half of the ship's escape pods, as well as outgoing communications. Captain Hollister immediately initiated an emergency evacuation and transferred manual controls to himself to try and land the ship in one piece. Following the evacuation procedure, all surviving life pods, those being 1 through 25, were launched from the Aurora. Of these 25, only 9 would survive long enough to transmit distress signals. The others either destroyed by debris, pulverized on impact, or lost to the ecological dead zone surrounding the crater. As the life pods fell from the sky, Captain Hollister contacted Second Officer Keen of Life Pod 19. In his final message, he ordered Keen to assume command of his crew, and, using the attached coordinates, rendezvous with the survivors at a nearby landmass. Meanwhile, aboard Life Pod 5, a non-essential systems maintenance chief named Riley Robinson
I didn't realize.
witnessed a rendezvous with the survivors at a nearby landmass.
I thought this was a mistake, where I was like fucking wiggling the camera around. I'm like, oh my god, no way this made it into the video.
Meanwhile, aboard Life Pod 5, a non-essential systems maintenance chief named Riley Robinson witnessed as the quarantine enforcement platform fired another pulse at the Aurora. The resulting shockwave ripped a panel off the wall of his life pod, knocking him out cold as the Aurora plummeted to its final resting spot in Crater's Edge. As soon as the Aurora made contact with the planet's surface, the dark matter ion drive's thick metal shields were compromised, leaking radiation in the immediate vicinity of the ship and effectively turning the Aurora into a ticking time bomb. About the same time, Mongolian emissary jockey Kharaa of Lifepod 13 was killed on impact with the planet's surface. Their last recorded message was a prayer. Minutes later, the survivors of LifePod 2, Chief Technical Officer Yu and an engineer named Berkeley, began taking on water as their pod sank to the bottom of the blood kelp biome. Using their combined technical skills and their pod's oxygen system, the two of them constructed a bilge pump to stop the flooding. Left with only 30 minutes of oxygen and 500 meters below the surface, they decided to use their pod's remaining power to transmit a pre-recorded distress signal. Around the same time,
so this is what I mean, like, all of the life pods, like, despite them having different stories of things breaking in, things breaking out, some people just leaving their life pod, or whatever, all of them have the same model of an outward explosion or an outward breach of some kind, like this. It's just like in different spots or whatever, but, or at least most of them have these. That's just one thing that I feel like if you really, really want, like, some people take this as evidence of that there's some sort of breach from the inside that blew it outward. But that's not exactly accurate, because it's just like, I don't know, I think that there's that disconnect between sometimes they're really good at environmental storytelling, and so it's super reliable, and then in other ways it's just not. And that's one thing that I wish that they would have just kind of ironed out a little bit. Speaking of which, I think I should have brought this up earlier when we were talking about game remasters. I think that there's a very solid chance within the next 10 years, we get a Subnautica Unreal Engine remake. I think that to bring Subnautica, like, I think that that's kind of their, like, Unknown Worlds is, like, flagship game. I think that if Subnautica 2 doesn't do really well, will probably remake Subnautica 1 and just release that. Because not only do I think with Unreal, the game would look absolutely amazing, but I think if they just give it another go around where they get to improve it a little bit, I just think it would do really good. I actually would be super interested in that. But yeah, that's just a prediction that I've had. Just like, I think it's kind of an obvious thing that they might do.
Second Officer Keen, following Hollister's orders, assumed command of the remaining survivors and sent out a distress signal containing coordinates for a nearby floating island. It's assumed by many that before running out of oxygen, Yu and Berkeley received Keen's orders, prompting the two of them to travel to the island. While Yu managed to make it, all evidence suggests that Berkeley was killed during the trip.
Also, nice troll having one of the characters named you, because it sounds like I'm saying you, but I'm saying why you. So I don't know. I tried to. A lot of times I'm like, well, you managed to make it, but I feel like that's confusing because you also plays another survivor.
On the island, Keen regrouped with Yu, who wanted to board the Aurora to send out a long-range distress signal. Keen, on the other hand, resolved to follow Captain Hollister's orders and remain on the island. Ignoring the chain of command, Yu insisted she was going to the Aurora with or without Keen's help, forcing Keen to follow after her. Meanwhile, aboard LifePod 3, two unidentified crew members attempted to rig a sea glide with an extra battery to double its speed. Cause of death unknown. LifePod 4 landed in Crater's Edge, where a Reaper Leviathan then attempted to rig a sea glide with an extra battery to double its speed. Cause of death unknown.
Okay, I've gotten a lot of comments about cause of death is not unknown. It's actually, this is the cause of death. When I say cause of death unknown, it means it's not, it's like theorized. And by I mean actually theorized, like not internet saying the word theory. It's theorized because there is some evidence that that's how they died. But ultimately, it is unknown how they died. So that's why I say it, because in other videos, I would just bridge that. And I would just say, oh yeah, the theories like lead to this being the reason why they died. And thinking back, I probably should have done that. But because I had done that, and I also had people talk about like, well, it's actually not completely known that that's how something happened. In this one, I decided to just do the opposite, where I would just, if it's not completely known, I would say it's not completely known. So I get flack for it either way, where if I say, this is probably what happened, and this is like what all the evidence point towards, people go, oh, that's actually, it could have been another thing, you don't actually know for sure. And then if I do it the other way, where I say, well, it's not completely known, they go, well, obviously it's this. So that's just one thing that when I say it's unknown, I'm not saying we have no idea what it could have been. I'm just saying it's just not, like, it's not super clear. Like, obviously it's pointing towards something, but yeah. I'm guessing the lack of bodies slash clothing slash bones is explained on the animals. Yeah, probably. That I know that's I know some of them regrouped at the Aurora, and that there is evidence that the crab things ate them. So I know that there is evidence of that. I don't remember if I mentioned it in the video. I think either that's a theory or that's alluded to in one of the audio logs or something, or maybe even in the environment. But that is, yes, like the breach in all of the life pods, I think is just to explain that the bones and the clothing either got washed up because it's been hours and they just are in a complete other spot, or they were eaten by the animals. So
Life Pod 4 landed in Crater's Edge, where a Reaper Leviathan attempted to swallow it. Failing to do so, the crew fabricated a creature decoy to distract the Reaper long enough to make it to the Aurora. Cause of death unknown. Stranded in the grassy plateau, the crew of Life Pod 6, including the head of human resources and another unnamed passenger, were threatened by the Aurora's radiation leak. Hoping to construct radiation suits to reach the rendezvous, the head of HR scavenged for lithium. When they returned, they found the passenger lighting a flare, causing their Life Pod's fuel line to erupt. The crew of Life Pod 7 submerged 200 meters below.
See, like, the whole life pod should be fucking blown up. Like, that should be, I think, a thing that, this is just me, like, kind of coming up with ideas, but I think in that case, the life pod should have blown up and it, it's scattered around, and that's, like, the evidence of it. But the fact that it's, like, their fuel line erupts and the hole is still the exact same hole as that's in every other life pod is just, like, it's not super reliable environmental storytelling. I don't know.
The surface were left hopeless without a functional fabricator. Cause of death unknown. Life Pod 12 was home to medical officer Danby, who soon after impact contracted the Kharaa bacterium. Ironically, his final message was a confession that he had cheated his way through medical school and knew nothing about treating an infection. Not that that information would have helped him. Life Pod 17 was home to a chef named Ozzy and at least one other unnamed crew member, who shortly after impact were likely ambushed by crab snakes from the nearby Jelly Shroom cave. 2 hours later, Keen made a final transmission in which he noted that he and you were intercepted by a Leviathan on their way to the Aurora. Left with no hopes of survival, he stated that both of them should be considered lost at sea. Just hours after the crash of the Aurora, a news outlet called The Independent published an article about the lack of communication from the Aurora, seeing as they missed multiple routine check-ins.
Look how shit this looks. Like, it just looks like it's all made out of clay, the water especially. The game just does not look good. Like, from a distance, or the Aurora looks cool. Like, it looks fine. And especially when you're on, like, parallel with the water, where it looks really nice, where it's like completely rendered in. It looks decent. But like, imagine this with like modern, just like everything in like Unreal or something like that. I think this game would look absolutely phenomenal, and they could probably even fix some stuff like the inventory system, which is absolutely dog shit.
After reaching out for comment, a spokesperson from Alterra claimed that this lack of communication was not all that abnormal, and that they had no reason to assume anything had gone wrong. Despite this, rumors continue to circulate about the Aurora's state until a small trade ship on the edge of the system, called the Sunbeam, picked up an SOS from the Aurora, confirming what many assumed was a devastating crash. While the reason behind the Aurora's crash and the state of the ship as a whole was unknown to the public, the fact that it landed on a relatively hospitable planet raised hopes that the rescue attempts would be successful. In addition to this, Alterra began looking into alternative rescue solutions, including an idea to transmit blueprints for a purpose-built rocket, which, utilizing the data the ship's scanners had provided them, could be constructed using materials salvaged from the Aurora and the planet itself.
I love that. I love that bit of lore that they just added that, oh, well, we made it specifically for the planet. So it's like, just any hopes, any like, well, what if it's not, like, how do you know there's a bunch of this and this and this and this on the planet? It's that they scanned the planet, they had knowledge of it, and then they sent something. I do like that little caveat. I think that's nice.
A few hours later, and about 8 hours after the Aurora's crash, Captain Hollister's quarters received a rescue solution from Alterra HQ in the form of blueprints for the Neptune escape rocket. Around the same time, and just before the Aurora lost communication altogether, the highly advanced onboard scanners searched for signs of life, discovering a single survivor in the safe shallows.
Oh, I like that title screen. I think it's
discovering a single
very
survivor in the safe shallows.
Oh wow, I remember the tracking. Okay, so the initial version of this, the tracking was like super all over the place. Like it was just like wobbly. And so I had my editor. I was like, hey, try to make it as stable as possible. And I forgot that it made it look really, really good.
Safe
it's like hella
shallows.
Stable. Yeah, it looks nice. The original idea for this title card, which I would have loved to do, was supposed to be me. So it was going to be a bird's eye shot of the life pod, and it was going to be me zooming out, just like going higher into the sky. And then I was going to have the survivor of 4546B. I wanted it to look like it was under the water, and it was going to be like either rise up to like the surface or whatever, where it would just be still look like it's like slightly underwater. That is the type of thing that I was like reaching out for people to do with like Blender and stuff, because yeah, it would have taken a lot, because like you have to do a whole ass water sim and you have to make the life pod. But I was like, making the life pod couldn't be too hard, and you don't have to make all of it. You just have to make the top half, and then do a water sim, and then do text, and just have that interact with it. But then yeah, they were quoting me like hundreds of dollars, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I do like this. I like the simplicity of it, but like, oh dude, if I could just have free reign, as you know, use whatever I want. If like I knew Blender in and out, that would be super cool to do these like super cool title cards. Yeah, I think this one's good. A lot of people, what I used to do, and what I am glad that I've grown out of, is a lot of people usually will just do a black screen title card for a second or two, fade out of it. And maybe they'll have like a a specific sound cue at that title card, where every title card will just be the exact same. It'll be black with white text, and just it'll be like that. I personally really love having the music crossover, so either build up to the title or there's a fade to black and then the title comes in. And I try to tailor it as much as I can to the specific chapter and the game that I'm playing, and try to always push the limits of what I can do. So that's one thing that I just personally really like doing, is never having the title card be the exact same unless it makes sense, like for something like Attack on Titan, where Attack on Titan, I just had it be the episode titles. But even then, I only used the sound cue for the episode titles that the anime actually uses for the first title card. The rest of them, I would have the title, and then it would just be like the music I selected. But yeah, this is just something that I personally really like doing, is I like finding these title cards and getting creative with it. Sometimes it's hard to think of some, but other times I like have the title card and I know exactly what it's going to be.
3 hours after the crash of the Aurora, Riley Robinson awoke to find his life pod in the midst of an electrical fire. After putting it out, he booted up his PDA and left the life pod to assess his situation. Hundreds of meters from any landmass, Riley retreated to his life pod. Equipped with standard provisions as well as amenities such as a fabricator and short-range radio, Riley set his sights on a single purpose: survival. Over the next few days, Riley scavenged for resources, constructing necessary equipment such as the repair tool, which he used to repair the life pod, as well as other tools like the scanner and sea glide, all the while receiving distress signals from the various life pods. Just as Riley began to fall into routine, however, the drive core within the Aurora detonated, causing a chain reaction that resulted in the ship's reactor reaching a supercritical state. Following the explosion, the rupture of the reactor released a deadly amount of radiation into the surrounding environment. After equipping himself with a radiation suit, Riley continued his quest for survival, eventually crafting more advanced equipment such as the Seamoth submersible and venturing further from the safe shallows. Around the same period, Avery Quinn, the captain of the Sunbeam, attempted to contact the Aurora to no avail. Investigating further, he conducted a scan of the planet, discovering the Aurora's massive debris field orbiting the planet. Unclear as to what caused this devastation or how many survivors there were, Captain Quinn sent a message to any receiving radios on 4546B to inform them that he was on his way to rescue them. As the Sunbeam made its way toward the planet, Riley eventually stumbled into the quarantine enforcement platform. Using a nearby purple tablet, he ventured inside the structure, learning that the planet was under a strict quarantine and that he himself had been infected. Soon afterward, the Sea Emperor, sensing something different about this strange life form, contacted Riley.
What are you?
That I have like a handful of shots of that a specific moment because I had to get it multiple times. So if you don't to cue that, you either have to, I can't remember what you specifically have to do, but I'm pretty sure you have to enter one of the alien bases or something like that. Then just 20 minutes later on the dot, it will that moment will happen. So I got a few shots of me getting it in different places because I was like, I don't know what, like I wanted what I was showing on screen to fit into anyone's playthrough. I wanted to give like the canon playthrough, but I also wanted anyone to be able to fit their experience with this. So I didn't want to be like, I never like really built my own base or built whatever, because I was like, I want it to just be, you know, just completely canon. So your base is canon and what exactly you did was canon. So I just kind of tried to keep it neutral. So that's why I was just like, I don't know, maybe somebody explored the quarantine enforcement platform for like 20 minutes. And then this is as you're leaving, you get that moment happening. So yeah, that's just kind of my thought process. I feel like I think way too much about it, but I don't know. I think it may be subconsciously
Days
shows.
later, Avery Quinn directed Riley to his desired landing spot on Mountain Island. Just over a week after initial contact, the Sunbeam began its descent on 4546B, where the quarantine enforcement platform promptly destroyed it, alongside Riley's hopes of rescue. With the
I also
Sunbeam began its descent on 445.
I also originally had the entire Sunbeam thing play out, but it felt weird. It felt weird to have, I just barely had the Sea Emperor little small cutscene play for a couple seconds, and then I say literally one sentence, and then I play a minute long thing with the Sunbeam. It just felt a little weird. So to condense it also, to get this, you know, I don't know, just I tried it with playing the full thing out. It felt like it just lasted a little too long, but cutting anything from it felt weird. So I just figured that I would just kind of say it and I would just explain it shortly. And most people who have seen this already just get the gist. They know. They've played this game so many times. They've seen the Sunbeam get destroyed. So I just kind of decided to, I don't know, it maybe seems a little bit anticlimactic that I just kind of sum it up. But I don't know. That's just something I decided to do because it felt like it just ruined the pacing and just kind of messed it up a little to have these constant breaks in my explanation.
46B, where the quarantine enforcement platform promptly destroyed it alongside Riley's hopes of rescue. With the prospect of rescue gone, Riley was forced to travel to the Aurora to repair the radiation leak before it caused irreparable damage to the surrounding environment. While doing so, he found the blueprints for the Neptune rocket. However, the blueprints remained useless until he found a way to disable the quarantine. Hoping to find a solution in one of the various alien structures, he continued to explore the crater, eventually stumbling upon the disease research facility in the Lost River. Inside, he uncovered evidence that suggested the precursor race who once dominated this planet had the same goal as him. While daunting, Riley set his sights on doing what this advanced civilization could not, and cure the planet of the Kharaa bacterium. Over the coming days, or possibly even weeks, Riley mastered—
I love this shot. I love the, like, over just time, and then I do this, and I wish I could have done it faster, but this is as fast as the game lets you speed up time. But I love this. I wish I could do this more in videos.
the art of survival. What once was a man who was terrified to leave his life pod became an explorer who ventured into the depths to recover lost technology, construct bases, and uncover them. What once was a man
oh yeah, I guess I did
who was
build a
terrified
base.
to leave
I built I
pod.
built like what I felt like was a cannon base. So I literally spent like an hour, I guess, making this base and trying to put a bunch of different things into it just using console commands. So none of this is actually a survival world that I made. All of this is just in creative, going through building stuff. Even this moment, it's literally right after I got that last shot, or right after I got some other shot, I just teleported into this area, hit record on OBS, made sure my HUD was off and all that, because none of my HUD I wanted to be on, even though it's canon to the game that you have a HUD, but I just feel like it's cleaner to not have it in like really any of my videos. And then I would just go and kill it. So it's not like I actually recorded a full playthrough of me playing. I didn't even get to do a full playthrough when I was doing this video. At no point because I have played Subnautica and Below Zero before, right when they first both came out. But at no point did I actually do a full survival playthrough when I was making this video. I just jumped straight into doing research because I already kind of had a loose grasp of the story, and then I eventually, jumped into the open world and I explored around, got some visuals of like, okay, that's kind of what this thing's talking about in the lore, and then I started recording stuff.
Explorer who ventured into the depths to recover lost technology, construct bases, and uncover the mysteries of those who had succumbed to the planet. With enough time, Riley ventured into the primary containment facility where he came face to face with the Sea Emperor.
I also get people giving comments about like, wow, you summed up the entire Subnautica, like all of what Riley does so fast. And I'm like, that's because the game, while the game may be like 20 hours long of you going and do you want me to really describe, okay, then he goes and he finds some titanium, and then he goes and he's going to go to this specific cave and he's going to find diamonds, and then he's going to craft the sea moth, and he's going to, like, I'm not explaining all of that. I'm just getting through, like, the game takes a long time to beat, but the story beats are really only like 5 minutes of explanation. Like, it's not that crazy, but it's an hour long because the lore is so vast. And yeah, that's kind of it.
Because he could actually communicate with her, the Sea Emperor explained that if Riley was there to help, she would freely give what the architects attempted to take. With that, Riley was entrusted with the Sea Emperor hatching enzymes. Using the warp gate inside the containment room, Riley ventured back to the surface, where he collected the necessary ingredients to craft the enzyme. Upon returning to the eggs, he presented them with the enzyme, allowing them to hatch into healthy young Sea Emperors, who, unlike their guardian, produced a stable and concentrated form of Enzyme 42. Using this to cure himself, Riley ventured to the quarantine enforcement platform to disable the quarantine protocol. Meanwhile, the freedom of her children prompted the Sea Emperor to finally let go of her own life. Once the quarantine was lifted, Riley drew on his vast knowledge of the planet's resources to finally construct the Neptune rocket. Without hesitation, he climbed into the cockpit, finished pre-launch procedures, and hit the launch button. As the ship ascended into the sky, Riley's feeling of accomplishment was replaced with an overwhelming fear of the unknown. For weeks, survival had been his sole purpose, but at this point, as 4546b shrank behind him, he had no idea what was left for him. Beyond this world, he had made his home.
That sentence alone is the reason why Subnautica is so good. That the fact that you and Riley are like so close in what you guys want. You both want to just survive and get the fuck off this like God forbidden planet. You just want to go. And the fact that as you're leaving, you're like, damn, but it was kind of fun. I really wanted to give you that. I wanted to personify Riley in that way. So it's kind of stretched to say, oh yeah, Riley actually kind of missed it. Like he kind of called it home. Like I get that's just me kind of adding on to it. But because what the player want and what the player think and what Riley wants and what the Riley thinks, I just decided to kind of combine the two in this moment. And I was like, you have spent so much time on this planet, probably built a really cool base, got a bunch of stuff, and like you are ending this game. Riley probably feels the same way where he's like, damn, well, I did a lot of shit on this planet. I literally, I built an entire home. I probably am like going to be nostalgic for it in the future, even though all I want is to get off this planet. And also this next moment after, I really tried to describe what the Sea Emperor was going to say in this final thing, but it really just worked out worse. It just sounded worse than what the Sea Emperor actually said. So if you're wondering why I added the clip of the Sea Emperor, originally I had it like written out in my own words. It just didn't sound as good, so I just decided to add the clip, which I do occasionally. Just I don't like to add clips a lot, but I do occasionally if just the game does it better than I ever could.
What is a wave without the ocean? A beginning without an end. They are different, but they go together. Now you go among the stars, and I fall among the sand. We are different, but we go together.
Months after the crash of the Aurora, the public were still in the dark about the fate of both the Aurora and the Sunbeam. However, circulating rumors about a strange energy signature that was detected around the same time the Aurora went dark led many to assume the worst. Adding fuel to the fire, Alterra refused to comment on the situation, fearing a hit to the record-breaking stock price. Over the same period, the Sea Emperors and subsequently Enzyme 42 spread across 4546b. As Kharaa's grip on the planet loosened, ecosystems around the planet began to flourish.
Okay, this is the top 3 shot. Just look at that still shot. Oh my god, I love it. It looks so good. I love everything about it. I don't know if anyone else cares. I've been talking about all these like shots that I like in this video. I got hours more shots than I needed because I just genuinely really liked. I like doing this in any game, by the way. Like Ghost of Yote, half the reason why I love that game is because I would find a really good looking shot and I would just get a 60-second clip of just a cool landscape shot. And I have like dozens of them that I just recorded just because I think it looks really cool. But like this, I just love it. I love how this looks.
Once more. It was at that point that Alterra, realizing the potential of the alien ruins left on the planet, installed a satellite in orbit of 4546b to scan for signs of architect activity. With time, their search honed in on a probable architect sanctuary in the frigid yet promising environment of Sector 0.
That's one of my favorite titles too. What lies below Sector Zero? Below Zero? Oh my god, absolute cinema. No, I thought that was a great title. Just I try not to do like straight up like I don't know. I try to stay away from like straight up titles of like this is this era of the game and this is this era of the game and this is this era of the game. Sometimes I try to come up with more conceptual titles. So it's interesting to hear your perspective on the shots and why they were chosen. Yeah, I don't know. That's something that I personally really like. I love behind the scenes stuff. So it's kind of surreal to make my own behind the scenes stuff, but yeah, there's I could give you a million reasons why shots were chosen because I have so many. I have hours upon hours of shots that I just got a ton of, and then I just get to pick my favorites from that. And yeah, that's one thing that I'm excited for the next title.
After setting their sights on Sector 0, Alterra established a handful of research facilities, including Outpost 0, the Xenological Research Lab, Delta Station, the Operations and Communication Center, Phi Robotics, used for research and development, Kappa Mining Site for resource harvesting, and finally Omega Lab, the sector's primary biolab. Though each team specialized in separate fields, the ultimate goal of the project was to study the Architect ruins within Sector 0 to find a way.
God, imagine this, but with like unreal lighting. That would look so fucking great, even though this looks good. And I actually love Subnautica's visuals. They look very stylized and I like them a lot. But the lighting would be, it could be, vastly improved. But like this looks so fucking hot. I love it.
Way to make contact with the architects. While some, like Lillian Bench, a xenobiologist of Outpost 0, had great interest in this goal and saw the potential to eventually fulfill it, many others found their lack of immediate progress as evidence of the impossibility of their goal. Likewise, Alterra, lacking immediate and tangible results, shifted their focus to the general research of architect technology. Despite Alterra's shift in focus, Lillian remained focused on the original goal of contacting the architects. Soon enough, her dedication was vindicated when she witnessed multiple instances of technological interference with her equipment. Despite the lack of evidence, she was hopeful that this was the architect's first attempt to contact them. Around the same period, a mechanical engineer named Sam Ayu developed a robotics project named the Mechanical Avian Amphibian. Regardless of whether or not she pitched this idea to them or if they came to her, Alterra saw promise in this project and promptly offered Sam a job. Hoping it would allow her to improve and test her project in quote real-world stress conditions, Sam accepted the position despite her reluctance to assist Alterra. After joining Alterra, Sam was transferred to Sector 0, where she worked under Zeta Landon within the Phi Robotics Center.
I mentioned this in a members-only video I made. I think I made a comment about it. I actually mentioned it at the end of this video as well. A lot of the Below Zero lore is so damn vague. We have no idea what comes before what or whatever. So I just really like, and a lot. So, okay, hold on. Like a million things are running through my head. Let me reset. Below Zero has a big problem with a lot of its lore being incredibly vague, and a lot of it is just all over the place, and it's kind of up to individuals to just figure out what goes where. In instances like that, usually what I would do is I would go to like something like a wiki, and I would see what is their perspective and what do I think makes sense. Sometimes maybe I'll find a middle ground. Sometimes I'll be like, nah, the wiki does kind of make more sense. I never use the wiki as a source, to be completely clear. Never. I've never done that. I never will. But I do use it to find what maybe I have a blind spot for. So maybe the wiki will be like, oh no, it's more like this. And sometimes I disagree, but sometimes it is a useful resource. For something like Lillian Bench or whatever, for something like her, I was like, what the hell what are these what's her timeline of events? Like sometimes I just have to figure that out. But when you go look up the Lillian Bench wiki, it's just not clear. There's like no information on her. There is no, like, there's just not a true, like, definitive answer. So that was just left up to me to decide. I thought maybe more people would have problems with how I described it, but I think not many people care about Below Zero enough to really have a problem with it. But yeah, I have my own reasons for how I organized it, how I ordered it. But yeah, that's just one of the things that sometimes I have to do in these videos, is I have to just come up with my individual answer. And some people don't understand that I am, like, while I am trying to be like the main, I'm trying to be definitive in my answers and give you like the answer, not just my perspective. Everything I do, because it's a video that I'm writing and I'm like recording and researching, is filtered through my mind. So whether you like it or not, there is going to be some bias involved. But yeah, that's just something that all of this is just, there are no like, oh, on March 10th, this thing happened. 3 months later, this thing happened. 2 months before that, this thing, like weeks later, none of that. It's just a bunch of, hey, this thing happened, and there's like 20 of them, and we have no idea what the order of events are. You kind of just have to infer. So, yeah. We need a novelization of the game, actually, though. Like, that would be very nice. I just wish more games would be, like, clear in, like, their chronological order. Especially after doing, like, a dozen of these videos, I wish games would just... my favorite type of games are... So, like, spoiler alert, this next video I'm working on is Horizon, the Horizon franchise. I'm basically done writing the video. But that's what the next video is going to be about. I haven't really publicly announced it, but I'm about to. Anyway, so that's what the next video is going to be on. I love that game and Black Ops and kind of Metal Gear Solid. Those three have easily been the best because they're most closely related to the real world. They give you actual dates of like, on March 10th, this happens. On April 3rd, this happens. And that I love because I can actually map out what goes where. It's kind of annoying with stuff like Subnautica or Infamous or Dying Light, where it's just kind of like, yeah, at some point this happened, at some point later this thing happened, and maybe soon after that this thing happened, but you don't really know. That's what I don't like. I wish games would be more clear about dates and specific times, even if it's just like a few weeks later this event happens, and a few weeks before this major event this thing happens. I don't know, just one of my pet peeves as someone who's done this like a dozen times.
While at Phi, Sam took inspiration from the Penglings, leading her to update the design and name of the mechanical avian amphibian to the Spy Pangling. It's likely that around the same time period, Marguerite Maida would...
And it leads me to say a lot of that shit. Like, it's likely around the same period. It's just like, who knows? I can never say around the same time period or a few days after that, or I just have to be like, yeah, maybe this happened, like, around this time, but who knows?
Repeatedly sabotage Citra.
But, like, in a lot of ways, it's, like, because maybe she used the Spy Pangling to spy on Marguerite, you kind of have to infer that, okay, so she made the Spy Pangling before, and that means this must have happened after, and all that stuff. But it is a little annoying.
Trucks belonging to Fred, the general maintenance worker at Delta Station. When Fred told Sam of this problem, Sam used her Spy Panglings to track down and eventually confront Marguerite, seemingly coming to an agreement to leave each other alone. Sometime later, while traveling to her mandatory evaluation with Fred, both Lillian and Fred unmistakably heard Al-An's distress signal in the form of an SOS in Morse code. Researching further, Lillian discovered that the signal originated a few hundred meters beneath the surface, which led her to believe its source was an architect sanctuary. Directly after Lillian and Fred picked up on the distress signal, Al-An, concerned that Alterra's interest in the primary warp gate would spell doom for his homeworld, halted his distress signal before he could be found. Soon enough, Lillian contacted Zeta Landon about the distress signal. However, seeing as she could not replicate what she had found, Zeta remained unconvinced. Determined to prove that she was correct, Lillian dismissed the dismissal and continued to search for the signal's source. After multiple failed attempts at locating the Architect Sanctuary and repeatedly acting in opposition to her superior's orders, Lillian finally gained the attention of Alterra, who relegated Outpost 0 and subsequently Lillian herself to a simple research and maintenance facility. As such, Lillian was given the relatively meaningless task of studying the flora and fauna of Sector 0, as well as maintaining the outpost itself. Secluded from the rest of the team, Lillian still remained dedicated to continuing her research, albeit in a much less vocal manner. Around the same period, Sam sent a message to her sister Robin, informing her of her spy pangolin development and asking her to look after her cat. Afterwards, she expressed concerns that Robin's employer, XenoWorks, a small research startup, was going through some financial troubles, foreshadowing Alterra's eventual investment and practical acquisition of XenoWorks. Sometime later, while exploring the glacier around Phi Robotics, Fred stumbled into the cave containing the frozen Leviathan. When he reported it to his superiors,
I love that. Look how it looks
time
in
later,
cinematic.
while exploring the glacier around Phi Robotics, Fred stumbled into the cave containing the frozen
and then the immediate
Leviathan.
cut to like,
When he reported it to his superiors, they
like
quickly
this.
assigned Ivan Parvin, the security specialist, to secure the site, allowing Omega Lab to study the Leviathan further. After taking samples, Danielle Valenti, the head of biochemistry at Omega Lab, concluded the Leviathan was likely infected with an ancient variant of Kharaa. Inside Omega Lab, Danielle studied the bacterium further, confirming that the sample was indeed ancient, as well as far less transmissible than the modern variant of Kharaa. Further studies revealed that under certain conditions, they could stimulate rapid multiplication of cells, resulting in the creation of several different mutations, some of which had incredible potential in a variety of fields. However, this same potential meant it could also mutate to resist the effects of Enzyme 42, resulting in yet another deadly outbreak. Despite the risk, Alterra decided to go all in on Kharaa research, hoping it would result in the development of state-of-the-art medicine and biological weaponry. Thus, Omega Lab became the dark heart of Sector 0, tasked with studying this ancient variant of Kharaa in absolute secrecy. Sometime later, Fred told Sam about the frozen Leviathan, as well as Alterra's shady reaction to this ancient variant of Kharaa in absolute secrecy.
You can see me ramp up the
Sometime
speed.
later, Fred told Sam about the frozen Leviathan, as well as Alterra's shady reaction to it. Curious as to why it was sealed off, Sam planned to infiltrate the cave to see the creature for herself. Using a spy pangolin, Sam infiltrated the excavation site, discovering the frozen creature was covered in what could only be the Kharaa bacterium.
By the way, this is actually me using the spy pangolin in the game. I just turned off the HUD, so like all the HUD elements are gone. But the effect isn't just some like, I didn't just like go into free cam and put this effect over it. This is actually from the spy pangolin perspective, so.
She immediately reported this to her superior, Zeta, who was more concerned that it would distract Sam from hitting her deadline for the spy pangolin project. However, to help Sam concentrate, Zeta stated that she would take care of the Kharaa containment, stating safety as her main priority. Though she was assured nothing was amiss, Sam once more messaged Robin, this time noting the shady things going on with Alterra and the frozen Leviathan. Brightening the mood, she then sarcastically welcomed Robin to the Alterra family, seeing as XenoWorks was under Alterra's influence. 1 week after confronting Zeta, Sam, concerned about Zeta's lack of a response, told Danielle that she felt she was being ignored. To ease Sam's mind, Danielle simply told Sam that they were researching Kharaa. Eventually, this was proven to be a blatant lie, when, while talking to Vin, a junior biologist inside of Omega Lab, Sam discovered that they were not just researching Kharaa, but actively mutating it. Soon enough, Sam gathered her fellow scientists at their weekly game of Alien Intruder, proposing that they band together to stop Alterra from continuing to mutate Kharaa. Some, like Vin or Ivan, who were more involved with the project, were uncomfortable with this proposal, while others like Fred were more inclined to hear Sam out. While the exact reasons are unclear, This insubordinate proposal and the completion of the spy pingling project resulted in the shutdown of Fire.
Again, I say while the reason are unknown or while the reason is unclear, I say that a lot apparently. I phased that out because I realized it's just redundant. Being like, oh, well, we don't know. This is what happened. I may as well just say what happened. Like, it's kind of obvious. If I don't say exactly what happened, it's just kind of obvious that we don't know. So it's like, yeah, that's kind of what that's what I'm doing in the next script, where I'm just, a lot of it is more, instead of saying like, well, we don't know why, but this happened, I just go, this happened. So
Robotics and Sam getting transferred to Outpost 0. No longer needing to keep the purpose of the research a secret, Alterra put Sector Zero's full attention to Kharaa research. Finding this development incredibly dangerous, Sam vented her frustrations to Robin, telling her that she was right all along and that Alterra were indeed the shady company Robin always portrayed them as. While at Outpost 0 alongside Lillian, Sam began working on an Enzyme 42 based antidote for Kharaa. When Lillian learned about it, she decided to look the other way, as both of them felt Alterra's research was unethical and irresponsible. Eventually, Sam successfully synthesized the antibacterial antidote, stashing it in a spy pangling accessible cave southeast of the frozen Leviathan, planning to use it to rid the Leviathan of the infection. Soon after, Sam went to talk to Marguerite about her plan to cure the Leviathan. While Sam knew what she was doing was right, she remained worried about the repercussions. Whether or not Sam wanted to be talked in or out of it, Marguerite was adamant that Sam was right. In fact, she insisted that they went one step further in destroying both Omega Lab and sealing off the excavation site using remote explosives. Claiming Omega Lab for herself, Marguerite used a sea truck modified with a battering implement to breach Omega Lab, then destroy it using a remote explosive, vaporizing the Kharaa samples in the process. Meanwhile, Sam traveled to the excavation site where she was caught by Parvin. Unaware of what Sam was about to do, Parvin slowly moved toward her. Just as Sam pleaded for him to back away, she slipped from her elevated position, causing the explosive to detonate, killing both her and Parvin in the ensuing cave-in. Following the accident, Alexis Riedel, an investigator for Alterra, did a full investigation into the sabotage at Omega Lab and the deaths of Sam and Parvin. However, the results were found to be inconclusive. Yet, Alterra's official stance was that the death of Sam was due to her own negligence, confirmed when they sent Robin a message informing her of Sam's death. To make matters worse, Alterra forced Robin to shoulder the cost of Sam's damages and crushing legal fees, fueling her rage even further. With Omega Lab destroyed and the frozen Leviathan far too costly to access, the entirety of Sector 0 was evacuated, leaving the bases to be buried alongside Alterra's unethical research.
Man, it is weird though. Like, after just watching my own video, of course, when the videos come out, I watch them like 10 times, but after kind of forgetting most of it, after watching the video again, it kind of just seems like I'm like, oh yeah, this is just obviously this is how everything turns out. Like, just like, oh, obviously this is the order of events. But I kid you not, I was stressing so much when I was actually writing this video, trying to triple, quadruple check and make sure I was not wrong with like the timing and try to think of it from a different perspective, and I would try to do all of that because there was no definitive answer. I had to figure it out myself. So I don't know why. I thought I would get flack for how I ordered this stuff, and I thought how I would like, I don't know. I just thought that I made it way harder than it had to be. But I guess I'm glad I did that, because if I don't do that, then the video turns out to be like just a bunch of assumptions. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just, as I'm watching it, I'm like, yeah, all this makes sense. But when I was making it, I was stressing about it, thinking about like, does this make sense? If I put this after this, does that still work? And I eventually was just like, you know what? I'm done. I'm just going to set it how it is, and that's how it's going to be.
Meanwhile, Lillian, unable to forgive Alterra for their shady dealings in Sector 0, eventually sent Robin a message about how Sam's death was not due to her own negligence. reinforcing Robin's desire to explore Sector 0 for herself, to once and for all discover the truth behind her sister's death.
Yeah, that took fucking forever to get, by the way. Forever.
Using a Xenoworks ship, Robin traveled to 4546B, where a meteor storm provided cover during her descent into Sector 0. After a not-so-gentle landing, she made her way to the detached drop pod. After gathering some supplies, she followed Lillian's lead in traveling to Delta Station. There, she was confronted by Marguerite, who, assuming she was with Alterra, warned her to stay away from her territory. Around the same time, Sanctuary 0 fell below the critical power threshold, forcing Al-An to transmit a final series of distress calls.
Oh, I forgot to mention that. Let me go back. Okay, so this is a question I had when making the video. So, a lot of the times, whenever there's like a weird unanswered question, I just ignore it. I don't bring it up because the thing I like about making these videos is that I don't have to like... Originally I wanted the channel to be kind of like a Joseph Anderson critique type channel. I know there's a lot of those, but the thing I don't like about that is really picking apart stuff and whatever, and it just takes me forever to do. What I really like about making timelines is I don't have to do that. I do notice them when I'm making the videos, but I don't, if something doesn't fully make sense and not fully answered, I don't really have to talk about it all that much. Stuff like Marguerite, where it's like, she landed on the planet and supposedly was infected by Kharaa, but then she just survived. There is no clear answer for how she did that. She survived for years, apparently, just for some reason, on a planet infected by Kharaa that should have like, that shouldn't even have had any like life on it, really, but except for the crater. So it's like when she got to below zero, how the hell did she eat? But either way, stuff like that I like that I don't really have to bring up. The answer a lot of people give is that the Reaper, because the Reaper was alive, so it had enzyme 42. They're like, oh, well, she kept eating the Reaper on her way, which means she eventually got enzyme 42 herself, and that's how she survived it. That's not a horrible answer. I just wish the game would actually say that, like definitively say that. It's kind of just something, again, you have to infer, where it's like, it's a kind of a big plot hole. I wish that they would just say it, but yeah. And also in that case, why didn't the food that the rest of the Degasi like people were eating, why didn't they also get cured from Kharaa? If they were eating enzyme 42, like cured like fish and stuff, why weren't they alive? It just kind of brings up a lot of plot holes. This whole game does in general. I made a members only video right after the Subnautica video came out called Below Zero is like Swiss cheese, I believe, because it's full of holes. And that's I'm gonna kind of take that video and summarize it very short and make those into shorts, or at least that's the plan. But yeah, that I remember just being so frustrated at this entire game for its super vague lore and all of the plot holes. Like, a sequel should introduce more. It should answer some stuff and then introduce some questions, kind of setting up the next game. This game answers very little and has its own completely dedicated thing and poses way more questions than it answers, and it's kind of annoying. Actually, it's very annoying.
Away from her territory. Around the same time, Sanctuary 0 fell below the critical power threshold, forcing Al-An to transmit a final series of distress calls. While gathering more supplies in the Twisty Bridges biome, Robin picked up this very distress call. Curious as to what caused it, she followed the transmission to its approximate source, eventually stumbling upon Sanctuary 0. Inside the sanctuary, Al-An, hoping to escape the confines of his containment cube before the facility lost power, asked Robin to present a storage medium in which he could upload his consciousness. As she approached the Sanctuary's central terminal, Robin presented Al-An with her PDA. However, Al-An, unable to distinguish between cybernetic and organic data storage, misunderstood this gesture as an invitation to transfer his consciousness into Robin's mind. After waking up, Robin confronted Al-An about the transfer before the facility lost power. With time, Al-An would inform her that without a proper vessel, he would remain confined to her mind. While at first, Robin would find this arrangement to be less than ideal, she would eventually find comfort in their similarities and fascination with each other's differences. As Robin searched Sector 0 for answers behind Sam's death, as well as Architect ruins, she eventually found Marguerite's base in the lily pad crevice biome. Inside, Marguerite told her that if she truly wasn't with Alterra and wanted information about Sam,
Music's too loud at this part, by the way. I apologize for that.
she would have to do them both a favor and disable Alterra's satellite using a test override module. After scavenging the ruins of the Mercury II, Robin found all the parts she needed for the test override module, which she used to disable Alterra's satellite. Immediately afterward, Marguerite told Robin to meet her at her greenhouse, northeast of Delta Station. At the greenhouse, Marguerite thanked Robin for disabling the satellite and directed her to listen to a PDA that gave her further insight into Sam's story. Hoping to learn more about Sam, Robin continued to explore Sector 0, eventually uncovering all the Alterra facilities, including but not limited to Outpost 0, Phi Robotics, and Phi Excavation Site. Using all available evidence, uncovering all the Alterra facilities, including but not limited to Outpost 0, Phi Robotics, and Phi.
Either that's some sort of mistake either I mistakenly said Phi Excavation Site, or I accidentally put the wrong clip to be entered here. But this is the wrong clip. This is Kappa Mining Site, but it should be the Frozen Leviathan
Excavation Site.
Or I was supposed to say Kappa Mining Site, and I for some reason said something different. But yeah, some visual clues could be that Bart died because it looks like he ate more veggie-based diet at the end, thus he didn't ingest the enzyme. But yeah, it's speculation. Yeah, stuff like that is like, I don't know. It could be that they, I don't know. It's like on one hand, you could say, oh, well, they were eating their own food. Like they had grow beds and stuff, and they were eating their own food, and that's why they didn't get the enzyme. But on the other hand, it's like they themselves are like, hey, we need to leave to go to the dangerous evil cave with evil snakes because there's more food there, implying that they're fishing for fish. So, like, that's, I don't know, which, first off, it just doesn't make sense. Like, let's go to the cave with predators in it that already eat the fish. And let's go in there and let's take their fish. And also there are predators there. Instead of going to the safe shallows, which is very, very close by, and just going there and chilling out where there's abundant fish. When you start the game, there's an abundance of fish and very little predators. And Bart eventually goes there. And you would surely be able to get Enzyme 42 from there. It doesn't fully make sense, and I don't fully love it.
Using all available evidence, Robin pieced together Sam's story, learning that she had died trying to stop Alterra from researching something they couldn't control. With that, Robin finally finished what Sam started by collecting the antidote using a spy pangolin and curing the frozen Leviathan, ensuring Alterra would never again be able to get their hands on Kharaa. With Alterra off her back and the truth behind Sam's death uncovered, Robin could finally help Al-An fabricate a new body. Using the knowledge Al-An had collected from various Architect artifacts around Sector 0, Robin was guided to 3 Architect components, including a skeleton, skin tissue, and organs. With the major components scanned, Robin
I know we went past this in the video, but you love the fact that they use the idea of the human brain as a computer for the Architect to upload to. I do too. I actually think that's the whole Al-An thing is easily the best part about Below Zero, and that's where I'm like, a lot of people, and including me, I could not give less of a shit about Sam's sister or about Robin's sister. I don't really care. Like, the story is fine when you actually like explore it. Like, the story actually kind of makes sense. But as a player, just playing the game, the thing that Subnautica 1 did so well is that you just wanted to survive. And I think that's like just the hook, is you want to survive, Riley wants to survive. I think the Al-An thing is really cool because it's like, you want to know more about the architects really badly, and Al-An is literally right there with you the entire time. If they were to just go full into Al-An was like the main plot of the game, I think it could be very, very interesting. If they were to just really lean into the architect side of everything, I just think the game would be overall better. But splitting the plot between Al-An being underdeveloped a little bit and the Sam stuff being underdeveloped a little bit makes the whole game worse. And I know that the game had so many problems when it was being developed, but I wish they were just to focus on one of them. And I think the one to focus on would be Al-An, because that just works best for the lore and for everything. But not to say that the Sam stuff really sucks, it's just both of them are underdeveloped. I wish one of them was properly developed.
Reverse to the Fabricator base within the Fabricator cave. Using the necessary resources, Robin fabricated each of the major components into an empty vessel, which Al-An was then transferred to. Within his fresh corporeal form, Al-An, still devastated by his actions at the disease research facility over 1,000 years prior, sought to redeem himself by reuniting with his fellow architects using the Phasegate facility. After sharing this information with Robin, Al-An invited her to assist him in accomplishing this goal. At the Phasegate facility, Al-An made the necessary preparations for his return home. When Robin eventually arrived, he gave her the final opportunity to change her mind. However, Robin, satisfied with her search for truth, assured Al-An that nothing was left for her beyond what she had learned in Sector 0. With that, Robin joined Al-An in making the final preparations for the Phasegate. Using a pair of architect arms, Robin repaired the energy masts around the facility, which Al-An then converted into a ship. When everything was complete, Robin joined Al-An aboard the ship. As they plunged through the depths of space, Robin asked her new friend what he was expecting to find in his home world. Though he was not presented evidence of his species' survival, Al-An followed Robin's lead in setting aside his fear, allowing hope to guide his actions, knowing that in the end, whatever they faced, they would face it together.
Kind of an awkward silence at the end there. Probably should have cranked up the music a little more, but that's all right.
I'm gonna start this outro by
that ending. It sucks when games or like timelines end kind of abruptly, because it just sucks when they end abruptly, because then it's like I have to end my video abruptly. Like that game just kind of wraps up like near the end. And it just feels like, I don't know, I just hate being handed that. And I'm like, well, I don't know how the hell to make this more conclusive, because the game doesn't even make it like super conclusive. I don't know. I really, really hope that Subnautica 2 doesn't, because of the way that Below Zero was received and because it was a little bit poorly received, I hope that they don't just ignore it. I hope that they really just take it and they at least make it important, and the architect, like where Robin ended up and what she did is actually like important. Because if it's just Robin goes to their homeworld and she disappears and they just kind of allude to that a tiny bit, I just think that's kind of stupid.
Saying if I sound a little bit nasally, it's because I'm a tad bit sick. But as of me recording this,
and I got a bunch of comments when I said I was sick that I was like, bro got Kharaa.
The video comes out in a few days, so I can't really delay this any longer. But aside from that, I wanted to first thank you for watching the video, and if you really liked it, consider supporting the channel by watching the other timelines, becoming a channel member, or visiting overusedbrood.store, where you can find these new...
One Aim Studios, he's the guy who made these. He He was in the stream a little bit earlier, right when it started. These posters look great. I have since closed the store, unfortunately, just because it did cost a lot. It costed quite a bit to run, and also there's so much shit with like tariffs and stuff like that oh my god, it made the whole thing so annoying to run. But I do hope in the future I can open it back up, because yeah, like these posters are they look so good. I remember I came across his posters just while I was scrolling TikTok and Instagram, and I was like, actually like my jaw dropped. I was like, whoa, these look, I think it was especially this one that I was like, oh my god, that looks insane. So I partnered with him, and I was like, hey, if we I'm doing a Subnautica video in the future after I finish this Attack on Titan one, and I was like, hey, do you just want to make help me out and make some posters? And then yeah, we worked together to make some of them for Attack on Titan, and then we released a bunch of them that he had already made for Subnautica. And then after that, I wanted to see how well the store did, but it just kind of underperformed, and it costed a lot to run, and I had to constantly tweak prices because of all the tariff stuff going on. So I was like, it was just annoying to run, and it wasn't really worth the time or the effort or the money or anything. So yeah, that's unfortunate. Me too, I'm sure many players want that closure. Yeah, that closure I think is so important. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get it in Subnautica 2. I think, again, like I said earlier, at most we'll get a audio log being like, oh yeah, Robin's gone. And it won't be like super clear of like what happened or anything.
High quality Subnautica posters designed by One Aim Studios, who you might know from TikTok and Instagram for his Subnautica artwork. I also want to thank...
He does mainly Subnautica artwork, and or at least he did when I first found him. So, but yeah, he did a lot of that stuff, and it all looked amazing.
Channel members Ian, Ashton, Solar, and Hunter, who are all longtime members, as well as Still Coconuts, CSC Dog, Billy's Quirky Music, Stefan Zar Auto, and the 10 new members who got free channel membership for tuning into this video's live premiere. As always, for all channel members, there's going to be a new members only video about the most recent timeline, so I'm going to take you through some of the more confusing lore and plot holes that I found when researching the Subnautica timeline.
And that was the whole Subnautica's like Below Zero's like Swiss cheese video that I'm going to turn into shorts, because I made I talk about it in the members only video in the update, but I made a lot of members only stuff, because back in the day it used to just be kind of like it was just kind of nice. I would just be like, oh, I'm just going to make stuff for the members because why not? And then YouTube started pushing a lot of members content, so it kind of looked like I was hiding content behind membership, when in reality it was more, I was like, oh, I have an idea and I can't really make it into a full video, so I may as well just make it into a members video. But since then it looked a lot different, so I've kind of restructured things, and I'm going to make stuff in shorts.
There will also be a breakdown and behind the scenes video where I explain all the Easter eggs and my experience with the game and researching it and making the timeline, but that won't come for a little bit, because
that's what you're watching right now. Let's go.
As I like to wait for the comments to build up so I can answer some of the most frequently asked questions. Speaking of questions, in Subnautica lore there are a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of ambiguous timing with a lot of events. Most specifically is Sam's story in Below Zero, where we don't really know the exact timing of events, so it's kind of left up to interpretation. I did my best to put them in an order that made the most sense to me, but strictly speaking, there is no definitive right answer. So if you have your own interpretation of how the events unfolded or the timing of it, go ahead and tell me in the comments below. Other than that, check out the links that are on screen right now, and I'll see you 2 more times this summer with 2 additional timelines, the second being my biggest video yet, so stay tuned for that.
Foreshadowing. Okay, so that's supposed to be the Dying Light video, which I was gonna make right after this, and then Metal Gear Solid, which I ended up making first, and so I ended up making Metal Gear Solid first because it was just such a huge project, like 5.5 hours long. It was insane. One of the worst experiences I've ever had with the video, just because it's too long, it's too big. That said, I'm making another huge one here within the year, but and then Dying Light. But Dying Light, they ended up delaying the game. There was a bunch of stuff about that I also ended up having to delay that to after the Metal Gear Solid video. But those were the two that were supposed to come out in the summer. There's just shit got delayed and shit got shuffled around, so it happens. But yeah, to end the stream off, well, first off, thank you anyone who showed up. This was a very, as I said in the very, very beginning, like the first minute, this was a very short notice stream. Usually I would let people know ahead of time that, like, hey, I'm going to stream in like a week, or I'm going to stream in a few days. I let everyone know like 15, 30 minutes before this stream started. So I apologize if some people are tuning in right now, or if some people are seeing this after the fact, that I didn't give you a bunch of notice. I just didn't know if today was going to be a good day for me to do this or not. But then it ended up being a pretty good opportunity to do it, so I just decided to pull the trigger on it. Good news is that I'm going to leave these up. This is going to be, if you just click on the live tab on the channel, you can watch this entire thing. Well, first off, let me go back. Let's pick a shot that's actually interesting to look at, so it's not just black right here. Let's scrub through it. There. Yeah, there's what was I saying? Oh yeah, this will be left up to public. Just click on the live tab. You can see the full VOD that way. Eventually, I have no idea really when, but I'm trying to do it pretty soon. I'm going to hand this over to my editor, and he is going to edit this down, and he's going to release this as a public full video just on the main channel, edited down. So some of your comments will be included and all that stuff. So yeah, if you're not wanting to watch the entire VOD, there will be an edited version of it. And if you're not, if you didn't end up, if you're just showing up now or you're showing up later or whatever, and you didn't have time, don't worry, the full VOD will always stay up completely public on the channel, so don't worry about that. But yeah, other than that, I think that's kind of it. This is very fun, great happenstance to catch you live right after watching the original video. Yeah, no, it was good having you guys. I wish I would have known that I could do this and I could get a lot more people into this. That would have been nice. But yeah, no, it was great. I love all the questions. I love doing these videos because I'm super interested. I love watching behind the scenes stuff for other people, so I like making that myself. I think it's super interesting. And Subnautica is a good one because these usually run about twice as long as the actual videos, and Subnautica is like an hour long. So it's a good 2.5 hour long stream. That's pretty nice. I think the next one I'll react to, I'm probably going to put a poll up, just a public poll for everyone to see which one they want me to react to. But I think it'll either be the Outer Wilds timeline, or it will be Black Ops, because the Outer Wilds one is like 2 or 3 years old, and then Black Ops is it's a little over a year. So I think those two are going to be the ones that I ask about, but maybe I'll do another one like Dying Light or something like that. But yeah, those are probably going to be some of the next ones. Let me know, and I will see you guys